Recording in progress.
I'd like to order the Planning Commission meeting for the City of Cloverdale for a special meeting on December 13th. Start off with the Pledge of Allegiance. And Commissioner Hobarts, could you lead us, please?
Under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
Want to test again?
Is it on?
It's green, so
One of them's bad.
I'll yell and scream. If we can get a roll call.
Thank you, Chair. Let the record reflect that all commissioners are present except for Commissioner Carney and Commissioner Cadle and Commissioner Sanders. So with that, with the roll, we only have to state who's not here. So the rest are
Okay.
present.
Perfect.
For.
Rest are present, so we'll move on. Does anyone have a declaration of a conflict of interest for any of the items on the agenda today? Seeing none from the commission. Agenda review. So going over the first item, which is the consent calendar. It is the approval of the minutes from the October 4th commission meeting. Does anyone have any changes or deletions to that item? Actually, sorry. Changes or deletions to this
Anyone
agenda.
can have changes, but we don't, staff has no changes, Chair.
Okay, perfect. But prior to that, does anyone have any changes or deletions to this agenda? Any items to add? No, okay. So going on to the consent item, does anyone have a motion to move the consent calendar forward?
I'll move to approve it.
Well, second.
You can approve those as submitted. We don't need a roll call vote for it.
Do we need to go to public comment on the consent calendar?
Yeah, Chair, you should, we should go back to letter B and do the public comments on items not on the agenda.
Any person wishing to speak to the Planning Commission on any item not listed on this agenda may do so at this time. Members of the public have the right to speak on any item of the Planning Commission agenda at this time that the item comes up for consideration. Pursuant to the Brown Act, the Planning Commission is not allowed to consider issues or taken on any item that is not listed on this agenda. 3 minutes are typically allotted for each speaker. Are there anyone in the public or online that wish to make a comment on any item that is not on this agenda?
Thank you, Chair. No one is raising their hand in person or online at this time.
Perfect. Then going back to the consent calendar, we had a motion to approve the consent calendar, and
Yeah, we can do a roll call vote for that.
do we need to go to public comment on the consent calendar?
That's at the chair's discretion.
At this time, is there anyone in the public who has a comment on the consent calendar or online?
No one is raising their hand at this time, Chair.
Perfect. Now if we can have a vote.
Commissioner Hovarts?
Aye.
See you all.
Aye.
Commissioner Sprengler?
Aye.
Commissioner Waggy?
Aye.
And Chair Acey?
Aye.
The consent calendar passes 4-0.
Perfect. So we'll move on to the one item we have on the regular calendar, the public hearings calendar. It's a design review and conditional use permit, DRCUP 005-2022, to allow a restaurant with live outdoor entertainment within an existing commercial building and related site improvements.
Yeah, Chair, I can just start with my, Chair, we have received 3 correspondence on this item, one from the Chamber of Commerce, one from Jennifer Stebner, and one from Mike Nixon, the owner of Papa's Pizza. We're going to put up our PowerPoint presentation now, and then we're going to go through kind of what we normally do, a little bit of the background, the zoning, some of the issues that we're going to be asking the commission to think about, and then we're going to turn it over to the applicant to walk us through the project, and then we can bring it back to the commission at that time.
Perfect.
Sorry, Mike, I didn't.
We're just waiting on the presentation to open up. It'll be one moment. We've been having some issues with our internet in the building that we'll also be working on in the next few days.
No, nah.
Back one, just to start there. Okay, thanks for bringing that up, Mike. So this agenda item tonight is a request for approval of a conditional use permit and design review for a new restaurant and bar with live outdoor entertainment at 101 North Cloverdale Boulevard. Please, the next slide, please, Mike. So on the left is the zoning, the site, it's kind of circled there in blue or highlighted in property line in blue, and then on the right is without the zone, just the aerial. So the site's essentially at the heart of the downtown in Cloverdale. It's zoned downtown commercial, which is also the same as the general plan designation, DTC. And you can go to the next slide, Mike. The site was originally developed as a gas station sometime before, in the 70s or before the 70s, something like that, back when Cloverdale Boulevard was part of 101 freeway going through town. There used to be lots of gas stations like this around town. And the site's been essentially vacant since the 90s, I think 1996. And obviously the pump's been removed, the canopy's been removed, and the site soil's been remediated. According to the Sonoma County Health Department, it was a clean. The monitoring wells have been removed, and the site's passed the soils remediation. And like I said, it's been vacant and remained pretty much looking like this since the 90s. Next slide, please. So in the downtown commercial zoning and general plan, some of the policies call for encouraging first floor pedestrian oriented retail uses and activity generating uses. Some of the design, many of the design standards in the downtown commercial design standards in the zoning ordinance talk about, new buildings and developing a property from kind of the ground up. Obviously, this property has developed the buildings to the back, so there's a lot of design standards that they they can't meet. That the buildings located towards the back. So without building a new building, there's things like that they wouldn't be able to meet, but. Seems like this is what they are meeting and what that section encourages. Also, what it encourages, I didn't write here, is elimination of blighted or unsightly conditions, property conditions, and that's exactly what approval of the use permit would do with this project, would remove that long-standing property condition. So the entitlements that they're seeking, again, is a request for approval of the use permit, and essentially the use permit is really required for the live music portion. Restaurants are allowed downtown, and although there is a bar element, with this, because of the way the ABC licenses work, it's really a restaurant. With many restaurants you'll go into, and they serve alcohol and they have a bar, but it's not a bar. So ABC has licenses that are strictly for a bar. They don't have to have food connected with it, and they have licenses that are for a restaurant where they have to have a certain amount of sales with food. So that's essentially what this is. So by the code. It's not a bar, and it doesn't require the use permit for the bar, but for the live music portion, the outdoor live music, which is a unique use in downtown, something that hasn't been proposed since I've been here. I don't know about ever, but so it didn't really fit. That part didn't really fit into the parameters of the restaurant or entertainment. So there's another section in the code that talks about any other uses that are not anymore. I forget the exact words, but I think disruptive or something like that than a lot of the other uses that does allow, like restaurants and offices and things like that, that it could be approved with a conditional use permit. So
Yeah,
that's the
one
reason.
way to look at it is that you don't have to be 21 to get in, so it's not really a bar, so it's a
It's a
restaurant.
family location.
Yeah.
It's family, yeah.
So next slide, please, Mike. So again, the description is they're going to do a building addition, adding bathrooms and office, and bring a break room, and converting the existing gas station or mechanic shop to a family-style restaurant and bar with a outdoor patio, outdoor seating, and the ability to offer or the ability to schedule live performances between 10 and 10, and the anticipated hours of the restaurant and bar would be from 8 to 2 a.m. Next slide, please. So this is just kind of the floor plan and the site plan, really. There's the expansive outdoor patio and stage and the bathroom additions and offices in the back on the south side.
We're going to have the applicants come up and walk us through their thoughts on the design and give us an overview as well.
Next slide, please, Mike. So as far as parking goes, as the staff report kind of explains, we didn't get into the parking analysis because essentially it falls into the non-conforming standards, and that the provisions allow for use of a structure or land which was lawfully established but does not comply with current requirements because of changes in law or ordinances may be continued. And the city has relied on this section for various other projects, including the building that Mr. Wilson owns across from City Hall. That's hopefully someday going to be into some kind of cafe or wine tasting or something like that. But just to say that this standard has been applied historically for projects like this when it's a building downtown that wouldn't be able to provide parking that would meet standards without having to tear down the whole building and do something. But so we relied on that section to say that essentially that they couldn't meet the parking. And just to go a little further, if parking was a question, why aren't we really making them do this? They couldn't meet the parking if they were to build it. They wouldn't be able to design it in a way that would comply with the city standards. Both these sections here for the downtown commercial design standards and the commercial design district design standards emphasize and require parking to be located behind buildings and screened, and obviously they wouldn't be able to do that with this situation. And just for argument's sake, I kind of cut and paste something from our parking standards and threw that up there. So that's what you're seeing is 60 feet wide and what 4 spaces would look like, and it would obviously go right in the center of where their patio would be, and it would go against the pedestrian oriented and activity generating provision of the code that was referenced earlier. That is what's encouraged in the downtown commercial district. So
Yeah, and we did just a quick analysis with our engineer, and with an ADA spot, if we were to require parking, they would only get 3 or 4 at the most with the turnaround.
and then people would be backing up, driving right into the front of the building there. Yeah.
So we've got this non-conforming provision that we can use to not require parking downtown. We think it makes sense. I mean, as Rafael said, the parking is not supposed to be in the front, it's supposed to be in the rear, and landscaping, all those things would really limit the number of spaces. So we would be looking at, 3 or 4 spaces at the most if they were done to code.
And instead of looking at an activity generating use, we'd be staring at cars, which was the opposite of what the code was seeking to establish. Next slide, please, Mike.
Yeah, so we took a 350-foot radius around, and that's typically like a small city block, just to, where people would be comfortable walking, and just did a quick analysis, and you could see how many public spaces would be available for the project within that small radius. Most of those are behind the Druids, which is actually a public lot, and Mike Nixon can give us his thoughts on that if he's willing to. But there's a lot of street parking and a total of about 142 within 350 feet.
I
So
don't think you even counted, I know the vets building wouldn't want us to say this or don't want us to, but you didn't count the spaces that are across from the pool, right, on Commercial Street?
I didn't count the vets because I
Yeah. But
don't
yeah,
know that
those
they're
are-
thrilled about this, but
It's
it's not
not
even-
blocked off.
It's not
and
needed.
Anyway.
Yeah.
Just for argument's sake. Next slide, Mike. So when it comes back to commission, these are kind of some of the discussion topics that are up for discussion for, the design review portion of the entitlement. And for the use permit, use permits, there's no real kind of framework, I guess, like for design review or the windows and this is, for use permits, it's up to the commission's discretion of what, they would like to look at or not. But just things that we thought of, obviously hours and days of operation and anything of the live music.
You can see, like we have conditions of approval. We worked a lot with Lieutenant Parker on the noise. We've tried to work with Mike Nixon all along, and we've got some conditions in there. Hopefully you guys have read those, and those could be subject to change based on what you hear tonight, or if you're comfortable with them the way they are, that's fine too. This is a use permit. It can always be brought back if there's an inordinate number of police calls or things like that. We have the ability to bring these back and further talk about the conditions of approval, modify those at a later date. But we've got in there what the applicant has requested, and we're trying to make it work for what they've requested, and we think we've got some decent conditions in there, but those are all subject to negotiation or discussion tonight. So I guess, do we want to?
Next slide, Mike. So with that, essentially, and then one more thing. There's a condition with a recommendation. We'll recommend that the Planning Commission approve the design review and conditional use permit, and a modification to some of the conditions of approval. Number 62 was we're requesting that one be deleted. It was a carryover from something else, essentially just a clerical error that it shouldn't have been in there. And also conditions, they were repeated on accident. I think 19 through, I got it here. 20, 21, and 22. Yeah. So with that, with those edits, we recommend that the Planning Commission approve the conditional use permit and design review, and staff's here to take any questions should you have any. And as the director said, the applicants in the audience as well.
So we put your plans in here, so I don't know if you guys want to walk through those. Maybe you can advance the slide, Mike. We just kind of copied them right out of your plan set, so
Is it all right if I take a minute to introduce myself?
Yeah, of
and the other
course. Yeah, tell
partners?
us.
Okay. My name is Amber Lanier. I am the managing partner at 101 North. I have with me Michael McCarthy of MPM Architects. I did want to just take a minute to introduce myself and my partners. Chris Fanini is the property owner. He is also a partner. He's an entrepreneur from the Bay Area and has owned both personal and investment properties here in Cloverdale for the last 5 years. His goal with Cloverdale is really to help enhance and continue to beautify the downtown corridor. This is a special place for him. Dr. Robert Gardner is another partner, also known as Bob locally. He is a 15-year resident of Clover Springs. He is a physician who has treated the men and women of Sonoma County and surrounding areas with drug and alcohol problems for the last 47 years. He has also been a real estate developer, as well as owned and operated 2 successful businesses in Sonoma County. My own background is that of restaurants and winery hospitality. I live here locally with my son, Olin, And I have a bit of family history here. Both my mother and aunt, Kay and Vicky Groom, were raised here by my grandparents, Elijah, also known as Bud, and Thelma Groom. They came here in the late 40s to start their family. My grandfather had just returned from World War II, and he immediately jumped into the position of Secretary of the Chamber of Commerce of Cloverdale. He helped to facilitate the purchase of the Citrus Fair property as it is now. He was an outstanding proponent for the airport and the development of that in Cloverdale. And in the 70s, he became the city manager and oversaw the building and dedication of the Cloverdale Library. He loved this town. He was dedicated to this town, and he has passed on. My grandmother, Thelma Groom, has survived him, still lives in Cloverdale, and actually celebrated her 103rd birthday last month. She's pretty amazing. A little bit about how this came about. During the pandemic, Dr. Robert Gardner, who is also my father, asked me what I wanted to do next when everything opened back up. And I had my eye on this property, and I thought something really cool needed to be done with it for this community. We found out that it had recently been purchased. We connected with Chris Fanini. He had similar views of what could be done with this property, and we asked him if he wanted a couple locals to partner up with, and he did, luckily. So we are here now. What we want from this property is really that of a community space. Good food, good drink, live entertainment on a regular basis. This is bands, but also open mic nights. There are so many local musicians that are dying for an open mic night. Comedic performances, community speakers, poetry, game tournaments, whatever fits the bill. I know that live music concerns some people in the community. We are truly not here to be a disturbance. We want to create a warm, welcoming, comfortable place for everyone to come, families, everything, and within whatever parameters are deemed necessary and respectful. So, thank you very much.
Good evening. My name is Michael McCarthy, MPM Architects. I was the architect on the project. Just walking us real quickly through the architectural intent. We started with the mechanic shop or the old gas station that was currently on the site and kind of looked to create an adaptive reuse of the property. If you notice, the new pieces of architecture kind of, they look back and they reckon towards the existing materials that were used on the mechanic shop and look to expand those where we needed to add the necessary restrooms and back-of-house utilitarian areas. The front stage area was a play off the existing roof line, basically pulling that existing roof line out to allow that covered entertainment area. The outdoor patio allows for a point of arrival at the property at the corner of 101, at the corner of Cloverdale Boulevard and 1st Street. So it allows for an area for arrival as you proceed in, leading you in, giving you kind of hints and views into the patio as well as into the stage and through the roll-up doors into the restaurant and bar area itself. Again, it was an adaptive reuse, so we wanted to keep those original forms as kind of a nod back to the history of the site and the history of Cloverdale, and really looking to warming up that corner in the heart of downtown Cloverdale and really start to help that revitalization of that lot. So if there's any questions about the architecture, I'm happy to field them.
Go to the next slide. What else do we have? Oh, the floor plan.
So real quick on the floor plan, you can see there's a large outdoor patio with the arrival, expanded bathrooms, indoor kitchen, and then your restaurant, which was in the main mechanic shop. All utilitarian areas are in the back, the walk-in cooler, freezer, break room, office, then your needed trash enclosures, janitor areas, and such.
Want to run through the slides, or do you want to go to a commission questions?
Well, if you're done, Mike, maybe you could just stick around if we have any questions about the design, but we can bring back our discussion topics, or if you have questions now of the applicants or staff.
I'll turn it over to the commission. Have Have you guys had enough of the presentation to be able to make any questions or comments off of the plan and site plan or the renderings we've seen? Or do we need to see, I can't remember how many more slides you all have of this. Okay.
I had one question. I thought I saw on one of the slides that there was going to be a sound wall coming off of the stage area. I don't see it on the floor plan.
It's a note really on the floor plan. It's probably hard to read on that. It's a note that's added.
How far is that going to come off of that wall? Or is it, I'm sorry, is it running perpendicular to the wall? Or
I
is
believe
it
it's
the
built
wall
behind
into
that
the wall?
stage wall that goes right, see where the square that says stage area? There's
Okay,
that
I
back
thought I
wall
saw
there.
one.
That all there
Okay.
is a noise proofing. I can't remember the rating you had, it's like 171 or something like that, but
STC.
We're aiming for a 71 STC rating on that wall, but obviously that's an estimated sound rating. But we're basically proposing a masonry wall fronted with a sound wall in front of that to really maximize that sound value, to stop that sound from disturbing Papa's Pizza's next door, as well as obviously the directional nature of the amplification system will also help amplify the music out towards the patio and not back towards Papa's Pizza.
so I'll turn it over to the commission. Any questions about the site plan or the plan that we want to discuss with either the architect or the staff on what we've been presented so far?
I'm going to want to keep that up.
I have a few. About the sound wall, is that wall, is it up against the wall of Papa's Pizza building?
It is not up against the wall of
Except
Papa's
there's
Pizza.
There's some airspace in between.
Yeah, it's set back, I want to say, about 18 inches. There's currently there's a newer concrete curb that runs, and there's the existing wall of the rest of the mechanic shop is actually held off of Papa's Pizza, and we're lining up the sound wall with that existing CMU wall.
Is there any shading to be provided in the patio area?
Currently, there wasn't any drawn in the architectural renderings. They would be provided, I would imagine, and it might be a better question for Amber, but I'd imagine it would be provided more through mobile umbrellas and things of that nature.
Is there anything additional that's being done to reduce the sound transmittance along the rest of that wall at Papa's where the windows are?
So when we were looking at the design, we were trying to be sensitive to Papa's Pizza. So we kind of got ourselves in a kind of rock and hard place because we didn't want to cover those windows. So we didn't want to take away the natural light and the views into the restaurant. Obviously, that could create a potential issue with sound transmission through those windows. But we erred on the side of leaving those windows open versus continuing that wall and basically covering those windows. We thought that would better serve Papa's Pizza.
Are they single pane?
I would have to defer to.
That would be Papa's question, or Mike's question, but we'll get to that if Mike has comments. Any other questions directly related to this site plan or the proposal by the staff?
Yeah, I was curious about the landscaping.
Okay.
Elevation and the plan, they're pretty generic, and I don't know, they don't do a whole lot for me in terms of softening the site. What are your thoughts about the landscaping?
So we aimed to reduce the landscaping, to reduce water usage was a big concern of ours. So that's why there's not a lot of planter space on the site. And also they were trying to maximize the capacity of the small site. So we did strategically place some planters to try to break up those street views to allow for some low water use landscaping. I met the built-in planters along the way. And again, to also try to create a shielding of the entire project so it creates a bit more intrigue as you approach the project.
So then how tall, how dense of foliage are we talking about?
I don't imagine it'll be very dense because, again, we're looking at low water use vegetation. That'll be developed further in the construction document phase.
I guess this is a question for city. How close is the nearest ADA parking space, if at all? Do we have any in that general vicinity?
It would be in the Druids parking lot behind Bali and Moe's Deli.
Well, you have some across the street at the bank. You have on the street side as well, but they're not as ADA compliant.
Well, I would just count public spots. Yeah, I mean, the bank has been pretty open to letting people park there Friday Night Live, but I'm not suggesting that that would be something that would occur here. But I think it would be, in the Druids, there's a couple spots kind of where it says 117 in that area.
Now, yeah.
So is it accessible? Like if they did park in the back?
Yes, and it is, they'd have to come around, and this was reviewed, and there's a couple little ADA tweaks that we're asking them to make in the conditions in the front of the building. So it was reviewed by our engineer for ADA compliance.
Yeah, one of my questions was going to be about the curb, the cut curb that's closest to the Cloverdale Boulevard. And it looks like you're abandoning the use of that cut curb, because, I mean, I don't know if you're going to be drawing in stuff onto the stage area from that cut curb, because you have two different cut curb areas. If that area is being abandoned, what can the city do to assign two spots right there? I believe you're about
Along
now
First
25
Street?
feet off of, you're 25 feet off of
Yeah.
the boulevard onto First Street. It's already cut, so replacing that with some concrete that could put an ADA access of a ramp up there.
Yeah,
I
so-
think you're right there for at least a couple ADA spots. Two ADA spots or one ADA spots, losing three spots, you're losing really one spot. I'm saying there's an opportunity that we can.
Yeah, we did look at
Yeah,
this.
that's exactly where I was going with it, was that cut curb.
Yeah, I'm going to let you speak, but the part of the curb cut's being reduced because the curb was too close to the intersection. And that was one of the things that we went back and forth with a little bit. They did agree to bring the curb cut down to city standards. So there's going to be a curb cut remaining. I think they want that for accessibility.
Oh, yeah, I saw that.
But-
First
but-
Street, I'm pretty sure.
Yep,
Yeah, well, on
yep,
First Street,
yep.
but what's
Can
left
you go to the
is-
rendering that shows like or even the photo shot that shows the current First Street or what First Street is planning to be?
Maybe the aerial.
Yeah, maybe it's I thought we had a couple shots in the packet, or I can pull my packet.
That one?
Yeah, that's kind of good. You can see there's a cut that, well, you can't really see it, but there is a cut right between that white truck and to right where your cursor is. So there's a cut there. Then there's also a cut on the back side of the building in front of the white truck
Oh.
as well.
Yes.
So I know you need, go back to that rendering, please. Yeah, stay there. So I know you need the back cut to wheel in and out your trash and supplies and that for your kitchen and that. I understand that. But your front cut, it looks like you're abandoning because you now have fencing up and you're going to have it, you're drawing the traffic into the front corner, which I like as well. But if you're abandoning that curb and you're going to even potentially replace some of that to remove some of the curb cut, that concrete work is already being done. There's a good chance to work in ADA compliant ramp and assign a parking spot, which will also, in traffic-wise, slow down people from turns and stuff on that boulevard area there. It doesn't leave it as a free open space. You're already losing the parking, so I think it could be a win-win, one or two spots. Right where that white truck is could be a spot, and then the one right behind it could be the second spot.
It's a value to the whole downtown, because I don't know down the rest of First Street that we have any, or I think
Mike?
we have one or two, but they don't have.
I mean, keep in mind that white truck's right at the back of the old building. Mike, if you can go to the new rendering. Yeah, like there. There you can see it's off the building. You'd have like some good spot off of that old building is where the gate, the doors are. You'd have one spot there and potentially one behind it between the guy and the doors there. I don't, you can look at it, but that's what I saw.
Yeah, there's a condition
When I walked the
49.
site.
Yeah, condition 49 talks about the existing curb ramp and shall be evaluated for compliance with ADA standards and made into make the standards with the building permit application. We did have a lot of discussion. Mike, maybe you can summarize what you.
So can you go to the site plan slide? There's a small note that says there's a portable pizza oven that's being proposed
Yeah.
there and a movable planter with an actual gate there that's serviced through that curb cut. So we had talked back and forth with engineering about reducing that curb cut down to the 40 feet, which is the city standard, which gives you back a little bit pulls it away from the corner a bit, but still allow them access to the site to get the portable pizza oven in and out and potentially loading and unloading of things in and out of the stage area.
Yeah, that's what I was wondering, if you're abandoning the curb or still using it to load the stage. I can see that as well.
Yeah, we were proposing to, again, reduce it so it's within current city standards, but keep it there to allow for a sliding gate at the First Street side to allow for loading and unloading, and then also moving of that, the portable
Mike,
pizza
do you remember the total reduction is not that much? It's only
oven. 8
about
feet, I believe.
feet from Cloverdale Boulevard.
8 feet is a spot. But anyway,
I think the problem with the spot on the east side is it's too close to the intersection, but there may be an opportunity
West
on the
side.
west side, yeah.
between the
Well,
two
let's look
curb
at it.
cuts.
We'll look at it,
And
yeah.
if you're tying in concrete work, you could tie in an ADA access that's tied into the access for you to get in and out of the building. I think you're meeting two needs. I have a couple questions. I could not find anywhere on the plan lighting. I'm wondering what your intentions are for lighting, especially coming off of the stage to the outdoor area, lighting around the patio area. Are you planning on doing a mid-lighting on the fence line? And also the lighting on the back of the house, as it's, right now close to where you show your trash enclosure in that corner there. How is the lighting on that back as it affects the business to your west?
First of all the lighting would comply with the dark sky ordinance, so it'd all be down lighting. In the back would be more utilitarian wall packs. Again, downlit wall packs in the back utilitarian area. In the front, we're proposing, again, downlight, mounted downlighting underneath the stage, on the supports for the stage, and then some site lighting mixed in with the planters and on the fencing. And if needed, once we get a little bit deeper into, again, construction drawings and a light study, potentially some low bollard lighting as well, if needed.
Did you take into account on that back wall area, there are some existing windows to the building to the west, to the commercial building, and I see that there's really no setback. How far apart are you, the west building to the edge
We're
of your
going
building?
almost zero lot line setback at that west building.
You're going right up next to it. So then my question is, I see you've cut back, and I tried to do the math today when I was looking at the side of the existing building to how far back you're already planning on setting back off of that, to where that cut is, you can see.
Mm-hmm.
How does that wall where that office number 106 office, does that block those windows? Are you taking that into account?
I don't believe so. I'd have to go back and double check. And we had talked with the structural engineer about actually pulling that off, that back wall, about 18 inches potentially, just for better constructability and serviceability, which if there were windows there, would at least still allow daylight penetration. Obviously, the views are going to be compromised.
I don't see a problem like that
I
corner.
don't think
and
there
you
is
might
at the back section. Yeah.
blocking off like the patio to back of Papa's.
Mm-hmm.
I get that, but I am concerned about the windows there, that it would be terrible for that business owner to next day see that he has a brick
Mm-hmm.
wall in front of his window. There are
I'm
no
not, I'm
windows
not certain
left
there are windows in the back.
Looking at a picture of it right now.
on the optometrist building?
Out of the back half there.
Yeah, not on the back half. I try to do the math to see where your cut ends to where their windows are, and I think you've got it covered.
Mm-hmm.
I just want to make sure you're taking that into account, that
Yeah,
you're not
gotcha.
blocking off their
Yeah.
window. Audio and lighting that is facing any of the windows to Papa's. Do you have any audio or lighting that would be going in the direction of those windows?
There would not be, no. All the audio and lighting would be facing away from Papa's.
I respected in your rendering, you showed the awnings on the windows. And Mike, I would ask you, do you have awnings on those windows right now? I know you did some refinishing there, but there's not awnings there on those windows, are there?
No, I removed them at the time when I painted and figured I would work with my new partner next door, and basically to see if, we could work with something on the awnings. So I didn't put them up just in case.
Really quick, can you speak into the microphone?
Yeah, sorry, this is an odd moment, but I think this is a
I
great
understand,
moment in
I understand,
sports
yeah.
where
We
we
have a
have
few-
two
we have a
neighboring
few people on
businesses
Zoom.
working
Yeah,
together.
to be neighborly, let's put it that way. I'm Mike Nixon, 105 North Cloverdale Boulevard, owner of Papa's Pizza. I just wanted to make you guys aware that, yes, I did we made sure I wanted to paint before they did come in to make sure that that was done. And then I took off the awnings and wanted to discuss with them if it fit into their design. Everybody's been, you know, I really haven't talked to them directly on some of these things, but you know, and just briefly this evening, I said, you know, I do notice taking the awnings down that it's a lot warmer on that side of it. So that would be something, and I think that we can talk with them about, you know, how that can be addressed one form or another with that too, because that's, you know, they are tinted, but even with the tinting, it's still definitely a little bit hotter in there. But we're into winter now, so yes.
Are they single pane?
I don't know that, just because we did have one replaced, and I can check to see if that was double or single pane. I believe that they are all doubled, just because it was in the old building when it was the Chamber of Commerce. I believe we had a lot of that repaired or fixed at that time. But that is something I could check into also. Yeah, so there were the awnings up there, for sure, and I did
Yeah, that
remove
was my
those.
question.
Yeah.
And then my question would go back to the architect, but thank you for your time,
you're
Mike. And I'm sorry for that interruption, but I felt like
Well,
it was
we-
a
I'm
great
here
clarification.
I'm here this evening to answer any additional questions.
Thank you very much.
Mike.
So my question for you, sir, is taking into account, is there that working ability to have him put awnings back on? How is that relationship? What is the responsibility? Because it is off of his side of his structure. He can put that back on his building, correct, at
I
a
mean,
later date?
I mean, technically, they would be encroaching, you know, into their property, although they're not really touching the ground, but it's a zero lot line for Papa's. But I don't see a problem. I mean, it would be something that you guys could,
In our initial conversations, we had planned for Papa's to leave them installed.
Because my concern is the heat. I really feel like you're in one of the hottest corners we have in downtown. There's no shade that you have built in your plan coming off of the stage, or shade. I mean, I love the low drought resistant planting. I think maybe you could throw some planters along there to help do some screening between. That could be really sparse that you can have between the windows and the tabling, just to give a little break up between window and table, and like what he mentioned in his letter is you can be looking at each other's food. But I think the awning is great if you guys can work together on that. That's only going to enhance more shading and maybe cut down some of the reflection of the building back onto your crowd, which would reduce some of that heat. And I don't know if floating umbrellas will cool down that patio. This is I'm so excited for this project. It's such an opportunity for our downtown. Do you have a question, Bill?
Oh, a few years ago, Mike had he donated, I can't remember it was after one of the fires, and I helped serve some of it. And those awnings were a hazard because they're pretty low, so they would not be really, at least the old awnings would not be compatible with a space where you have people circulating, just because they were down so low. So maybe something else would work, but.
The coordinated efforts that are potential.
I think the comment about planters might be a potential solution to that, right? If they're below 6'8", we'd have to
Yeah, it
put
might
something there
provide both
regardless.
shade to the windows and, you're right, a little bit of both without having to put awnings back up.
The old, they put in some planters over at the post, the trading post, and their olive trees are pretty, they grew up pretty good, and they're in fairly small containers that I don't,
Are you planning on running a drip system around the patio?
I believe just there's only 4 built-in planters.
Yeah.
4 built-in planters there would be.
Preset that before you set the patio. Nice. And then I'm sorry, I do development that was my hobby before this life. The other comment I would make is you have an odd access for your staff. I've designed resorts and restaurants. Mike, can you go to the rendering again that shows like the floor plan? I recommend you think about another access to your kitchen off of your west wall of that kitchen that goes through that trash enclosure, and I would just shift the trash enclosure and the janitor over one spot so the trash enclosure's here. I know it makes it more difficult to have the pickup, but the trash company can pick up, and the give or take between trash pickup ease versus your kitchen ease, because right now you have your kitchen loading and unloading all of their food through the restaurant and bar. It's going to be a nightmare. I've seen that mistake before in one of my resorts. But if you run it off of the west wall and punch through that west wall, I know it's a little bit of a cost to punch through that wall, but if you run it through there, through that janitor to the cooler freezer, you have a lot easy access back of house. You won't interrupt your kitchen and your restaurant. Higher service. It'll be a big improvement for you. So something to think about in your plan there. Any other questions from the commission on the plan?
I don't know that sound wall is going to be enough to stop the sound transmittance into Papa's Pizza. I mean, if he's got just regular tempered or annealed glass there, they're probably going to buzz when music's amplified and playing, and he's probably going to need some sort of window with a higher STC with probably laminated glass or something. I don't know, I mean, maybe if the windows were going to be replaced, if it was something that they could become then operable and Papa's Pizza could, patrons could enjoy music too or something. But either way, I just don't know that, that's the bulk of Papa's seating is right there along that wall. And, what sounds good on the outside doesn't sound good muffled on the inside, especially when you're right up against that wall. So I think that probably needs some higher STC ratings on that portion of the wall as well.
That's something that we could add on the conditions of approval, that we could revisit this.
We do have a condition, but we can, I don't know if it's that specific to the material or the rating. But yeah, we can add that.
How directional is the audio going to come off of that stage? Is it coming directly south, or is it going south east?
The primary direction would be directly south.
Directly south.
Mhm.
I think luckily, Mike would know if he comments, that you are affecting that private room that's off of the main room, because that's where the windows are at that end, and then you're into that private room, and then you're into some storage room, which is kind of uniquely good, that ties in with the restaurant. There's so much good, but yeah, I can see the concern.
Yeah, because at that proximity, no matter which direction the sound's traveling, you're gonna get plenty through. I think that they've resolved it well with that private room with that high STC wall right there, and that's probably going to be the least concern. But that other portion of that wall, I don't know the age of the wall and the windows and what it was built to.
Hey, some of these older walls, I have one.
I know they're solid.
It's a lot better than most of the new walls.
Yeah.
We can work with the manager too. I'm hoping you're not going to have blaring. I know it's amplified, but
You want the businesses
we
to
want
work
these guys to
together,
build
not
a trust
Yeah.
and
work
and
against
get a
each other.
good synergy going with each other. And there is a condition that sound attenuating, dampening construction elements will be designed to the satisfaction of the building department. We can add something to that, or if Mike has some ideas that we could add to make that more prescriptive for what we're looking for. I'm not a sound expert, but you guys sound like you know a lot about it.
I know how to make noise. I don't know how to reduce it. But I imagine there can be a general average study that is available to a downtown corridor, and I would imagine cities like Santa Rosa have that, and try to meet that decibel level between the dampering between the two locations. Just make sure you keep dampering it until you reach that level.
Yeah, and we have some stuff in our general plan. It's kind of dated, in my opinion, but it's some guidance, but I think we would probably, it says to the satisfaction of the building department, so as part of your building permit, we're going to want to see what you're going to do for the sound dampening, and we can make sure that whatever is being proposed is
Well, and I would
state of the art.
highlight that really our concern is Papa's.
Yeah.
So if it meets Papa's standards, it meets our standards. If it's affecting Papa's, then that's where we get concerned. I think we
Sounds
do
right.
want to create some noise with your location, because I feel like it's really positioned in a place that could draw business, traffic, revenue, all to the city. So I'm not going against that. But I do want to meet the needs of Papa's and how that could affect their windows and that. And Mike, we can talk another time about the research project I'm running on these new smart windows that are pretty cool. So talk about that. But yeah, that's the other idea, is just how to keep the noise dampened, or how to directionally control the noise that is going off of your area to our public, but then protecting the one business nearby. I don't think you have any problem. Your business dampers the noise to the business to the west, the back patio of Papa's that's back to the north, and that I don't think is going to be affected by your music either, because your building kind of buffers that. It's just the windows right there. That's the only problem. Maybe the planters and the right type of plant. I've used plants in my center downtown Santa Rosa to kind of really shift noise, and that has worked. So you might find it even through some vegetation to help cut down some noise.
I mean, there are sound consultants, and I don't want to put you guys through more than you've already been through, but probably for not too much money, we could have a sound consultant make some recommendations. I don't know if that'd be something that you guys could look into, or maybe you know this stuff already. Mike, you're the architect.
By no means am I an expert on acoustics, but I have worked with some acoustical engineers in the past that I could talk with Amber potentially about looking into that as we move into construction documents.
Because in sound, I can tell the rest of the commission, we could easily force a sound dampering, but then that would block off the business of Papa's. And so I want to be able to just work on both sides. So
And that
that's
really
the other
was
thing.
we were back and forth with that during the design too. That's why that wall stopped where it did, and we were trying to be very cognizant of those windows and
Those-
trying to figure that out.
Yeah, I mean, it's 4 windows. They're within the 35-foot square foot limit for most like high sound transmitting glass. Just there's a lot of options out there that are really high rating that they do in various buildings, especially like in music rooms and stuff. And a lot of people in the city, they do a lot of these like indoor music rooms, and we put a lot of glass in those that that are practically soundproof, but just have super high STC ratings. So, 4 windows within that smaller square footage probably wouldn't be a huge cost, but it would probably help tremendously if, to prevent Papa's customers from being uncomfortable while they're trying to enjoy their meals as well.
Any other questions from the commission? Go ahead.
The space between the trash enclosure, the janitor, and then the property. Is there a reason why you didn't go back up against the property line? And is it because of windows?
In the front half of that building, there's windows there, yeah.
Any other questions? We'll open this up to the public to see if, thank you for your time. We'll open up to the public to see if you have any additional comment or online.
We could do members of the public that are present first. If anybody would like to speak. There's also cards available up there, if you could please fill out one.
If
and
you
hand
could
it to
please
me.
state your name and if you could keep your comments to a 3-minute minimum, please.
My name's Chuck Levine. I live up on Vista View. Thank you very much for fixing our road. I think it looks great. I think this is a good idea. I just have 2 questions. First one is, what about the music and Friday Night Live? Second question is, 2 o'clock for a restaurant that's family-oriented, why is it open till 2? That's all I have. Thank you.
Well, I'm going to ask Amber, yeah.
Before we answering each one, can we close either have everyone have a chance to speak? So
Yeah, we can keep.
Open and close the public
We'll
hearing.
save some of these questions.
We'll
and
save all the
I'll
questions.
address them back. So, but is there anyone else with public comment that would like to speak?
I'm Janesse Brewer. I'm a chamber board member and have been somehow dealing with things all day today. I think it's a wonderful plan, wonderful idea. I, too, am very concerned about music at 2 a.m. in a town that basically closes down at 8. And is this 7 days a week? I'm sorry, I missed that portion. Maybe we have 1 day a week where it's open till 9. So I think it's sort of premature for this town to assume we'll have music till 2 a.m.
Chair, go ahead, Mike.
So just to clarify the,
If we again, can we just hold off on answering the questions?
Yeah,
Let's close the
sorry,
public
one more
hearing
minute.
first.
We're gonna remember
I'm writing
them
them
all,
all
Mike.
down.
Yeah, write them down.
We'll get to it. There we go.
It's
Still
cleaner for the
keeping the
minutes and
public
for the
comment
process.
open, so anyone else with public comment, please step forward, or anyone online.
All right, looks like no one else is raising their hand in the chamber, and no one's raising their hand online. So you can close it at your discretion, Chair.
Okay, so we'll close public comment. There were a couple questions about really the, I guess it's called the outdoor amplification after 10 p.m. or even up into the business hours of 2 a.m. And the quantity of days of business to 2 a.m. being 7 days a week, or any other limitations thereof. Does the staff have any comment to that?
yeah, so the conditions of approval prohibit amplified music or entertainment, if you know that night's performance isn't amplified music, if it's something else. Any kind of entertainment performance is prohibited after 10 p.m. Because it's, you know, part of the restaurant, there is a bar. The bar portion, you know, as ABC laws allow bars to stay open until 2 a.m. So I don't foresee that they, you know, will be open every Sunday night and Monday night and every night till 2 a.m. I think, you know, when the Sawmill Saloon, which is the bar down on Cloverdale Boulevard, I think the 200 block, when they got approved, you know, I think the conditions allow them to stay open until 2 a.m. also, I think 7 days a week, but I don't imagine that they actually are open, you know, every day till. I think they just kind of go by, you know, whatever they're. It just is, the conditions allow for them, you know, for the ability to that, you know. But I'm sure, like most places, with if there's no customers, they're going to close, you know, whenever they feel like it, I guess. But the conditions, you know, are written so that essentially the music performances have to end by 10.
6 nights.
7 days a week.
For the isn't the live entertainment 6 nights, or is that all 7?
Yeah, 7.
Okay.
And the applicant, I'll ask the applicant to come up and just, I guess, expand on any of that. But I think in their application, you know, they talk about, you know, the ability to have, you know, jazz on Sundays at brunches. So, you know, we didn't want to limit it to just to 1 day. And I'm just guessing that the applicant could get up to just talk about the Friday Night Live too. But, you know, we didn't want to put a condition in there that's just limited to a certain days or weeks. Again, there's a condition that this is a conditional use permit. It can come back to the commission at any time if there's, for any reason, for any amount of complaints, or for any reason, this can be brought back to the commission to look at the use permit and to establish any additional conditions that may be needed. But for the starting of it, and just to kind of let them have the ability to schedule things whenever they could, essentially, and see if this thing can get off the ground and be successful. But yeah, for Friday Night Live, I would imagine they wouldn't try to compete with Friday Night Live, but I'll let the applicants reference that.
When you said it could come back to the commission, does it need to be on the notice, on the conditions of approval for it to come back?
There is a condition in there.
Okay, do you have that?
As far as live music until 2 a.m. every night, 7 days a week, as the managing partner, I don't want to see that either. We will function within whatever is deemed fair and respectful for the community, and absolutely not compete with Friday Night Live.
I believe that was the questions from the public. If there were any unaddressed, please let us know. We'll come back to your public comment here in a second, because we'll go back through the overall project and comments and wrap up from each of the commission as well.
Sounds good.
Staff, do you have any other
Just,
comments?
you may have noticed the police department's input on here too, the no loitering, the, that there's staff available all the time in the patio area, and some stuff about that, where the alcohol. So we asked the police department several times about the 2 a.m., and they really didn't have an issue with it, so.
All right, any comments from the commission on the overall project, or closing comments before we move to make a motion?
We can do the discussion, if you want, the discussion topics that we put together,
Sure.
or if you feel like we've covered that.
Yeah,
Sorry, Mike.
just to go through them.
Back to the PowerPoint.
Talking about the fencing, screening, I mean, it doesn't
Yeah,
cover all
we
of
did
what
kind of get into it, but
today, but yeah. I think it was the next one after this.
I don't know what slide it was. Our discussion topics.
Oh.
Covered these already, Chair, but if you want to.
I had no questions about the fencing or the design of that, the stage, planters, materials. We've covered the hours of days in operation and live music. Any other comments about the overall project?
I did have some comments on live music during the weekdays, possibly until 10. I know there's not a lot of homes in that area, but I don't know if 10 is pushing it. I wouldn't expect them to have live music every single night until 10. But maybe there could be a condition where it is unplugged after a certain time and not amplified, like from 8 to 10 or something, with maybe some special exceptions for, say, Citrus Fair or something where you might have, more crowds in town and more music. But I think just kind of the average day to have, really loud amplified music until 10 o'clock could be problematic for some of the residents in the immediate neighborhood. Not that there's a lot of them, but we do need to be conscientious of them. I don't really see parking as an issue. We pack Friday Night Live and people manage to find parking, and if people are listening to music and drinking, they should get rides down there. This is probably a good opportunity for somebody to capitalize on a little Uber or Lyft and get some more business out of that. But, if people are drinking and listening to live music, get a ride. There's a lot of other ways to get around town. It's a small town, walk. And I think that in conjunction with that, I know that because there were a lot of people making comments about the limited parking. Probably the busiest hours for this business, most of the other businesses down there are already going to be closed. So that really frees up a lot more of the parking, with the exception of, the only one I did have is that that there is an ADA parking, at least one in the immediate area somewhere there that can accommodate people who don't have the ability to walk or get a ride in a Lyft or something like that. That's not ADA compliant.
Thank you. Bill, any comment?
I think it's a pretty interesting and exciting project. I tend to think that the market is probably going to dictate the hours of operation for music and things like that. The comment about the town rolls up at 9 o'clock, they're right. It pretty much does, might be 8 o'clock. I think that site has been a eyesore for a long time, and it'd be really nice to have it be a vibrant place, yeah.
I'm excited to see this project. We actually need something like this. We need economy downtown. We need it in Cloverdale. So I'm looking forward to this project. It looks beautiful. I'll probably be there more than a few nights. So thank you for this, and I'm excited to see this moving forward.
So we can put in the recommendation that Sandra can do noise control. 10 PM.
We're going to monitor it, we're going to understand there's a lot of police calls, I don't anticipate that, but we keep tabs on it, and especially for new use permits. We did that with the sawmill and ended up not really having any problems, so, it's not just to prove it and it's over. I mean, if there's problems, we're going to hear about it and we're going to adjust things.
Yeah, I understand that our downtown has been a quiet downtown for a while now, but it's time to kind of wake a little bit of business up. So I feel like we can have an opportunity here to really draw a good focal of business and people right to that area, which I hope will only appreciate the neighbors as well in getting more business, especially if you could partner together. I think the pizzeria next door to music and that, and it's such a great compliment one to another. Plus, I'm actually working with a couple other cities on how to reuse old gas stations, and a way to Petaluma is getting rid of all of their old gas stations. So how do you reuse gas stations? And what a better way of doing it than to draw in more traffic into our downtown area. It brings a bar / food / our arts, and it's a curbside European style. So you're actually bringing it out to the front of the buildings, which is a very modern-esque European way of inviting the community into your space, which I think is smart. The roll-up doors are smart. The stage in general, we need some more music venues. We are a music town in our county. I think that's one of our gifts, and so we need to play with that talent. I don't want to limit the number of performances. I do think we have a performance shortage in our city, so I feel like we need to add more and more performances to try to draw in more and more events and fun and business and do that. I do have a couple concerns, though. The parking and the ADA is a concern of mine, so if you can tie in that parking somehow, I think that would be brilliant, especially with the curb work you're already going to be doing. That will save cost. Limitation to the noise after 10, I think putting in the regulations maybe an idea of all exterior noise is shut down at 10 p.m. So the only noise that could be made is from the interior of the building only. That would meet the needs of all of the neighbors around at 10 p.m. And I think that the hours of operations to 2 a.m. is very consistent with all the other bars in our town, let alone anywhere else in the county. So I think that's not a problem for me at all. But I am concerned about the noise buffering between Papa's and the stage, and also Papa's windows noise buffering, maybe plants, look at other items besides trying to break down that noise. And I am really concerned about the shade reduction, only because I too think that I'll be there every night, and I have this bald head that just gets sunburned so easily, so I need protection in order for me to sit out there, because I will be on the outside, I guarantee it. And I want this to work year-round as well, so I think I loved how Papa's and that have done like a pergola setup to where they could tie in heat sources or other ways of keeping it a year-round atmosphere. So hopefully that's something you can figure out if you do an update to your rendering on a low-cost solution that can tie in some shade. And I think that will only cause a benefit to Papa's, and really playing with Papa's on cutting down the noise, providing a good shaded atmosphere in that area. Might also make it because right now you're just looking out at a parking lot, Mike, and you could be looking out at something really cool, which will only make your spot enhanced. I think there's a great opportunity of this really helping both businesses and helping our downtown area kind of kickstart what we need to do, because I think we need probably 2 or 3 more sites like this in our town. So I appreciate this plan. I hope we have more. Do I need to repeat all that?
No, we're just admiring the closed captioning there. That's a new feature on our Zoom.
Oh, I thought you were glare off my head or something.
I was going to say, I didn't want to say it.
Yeah, it's pretty brilliant.
So we're putting that as a condition of approval, the shading?
Yep, yeah.
Okay.
I would love to see shading. You have to have some, you keep this year-round, I think you need
Yeah.
something. And I understand portable, movable shading, or something that can stretch across, because you have the fire pits, and I know you're going to be moving stuff in and out, and you could have a dance. I mean, there's so much you could do with that space if you work it right, but you need shading.
For sure.
Noise buffering and shading.
Maybe.
And think about switching that configuration to your kitchen. I think it's going to improve your service quality and make the staff happier. Plus, it's going to build a better environment for the kitchen, or for the restaurant side of it in the bar.
Maybe instead of the individual awnings over the windows at Papa's, maybe that becomes a larger awning or pergola or something off of that wall that,
Tie in near each other. You could
Yeah.
probably do something like that. I think that would be brilliant.
yeah.
Yeah, if you may have seen it, but I think it's Fog Belt, I think brewery in Healdsburg has done a complete outside. Their whole venue's
Green car.
outside, yeah, and it's all with canvas type covering over, not temporary, well, it's probably temporary, but it's permanently temporary. But they've done a really nice job on that site.
Yeah.
Any other comments from the commission?
Yeah, I'm excited just as much as everybody else. Sorry if I didn't say it, but I think it's a beautiful design and just can be a great draw and a great addition to our town.
One of my favorite nights is the open mic night here, so if you haven't done that, that's awesome. So to do this on a more regular basis would be pretty incredible for this town.
And the poetry as well.
Oh, yeah. Well, okay, let's not leave out the poets. Any comments from the public? I'll open up one more time to the public for any additional comments on the project. Or online?
No one's raising their hand online either, Chair.
Perfect. So I will, we have before us a design review and conditional use permit and the resolution. Let me see if I can pull up what the resolution is.
It has not been assigned a number yet.
I have resolution number blank of the Planning Commission of the City of Cloverdale approving a design review and conditional use permit to allow an addition to an existing commercial building for a restaurant and bar with outdoor amplified entertainment at 101 North Cloverdale Boulevard. We had a couple additional recommendations of noise between Papa's and I don't know if you want to read through the additional recommendations you have and we can add to those, or do you want me to cite what I remember?
We're going to work with the applicant to make sure that the noise attenuation is like state-of-the-art, the best that we can come up with. We're going to work to see, I'm not sure an ADA spot will fit there on the street. I know what you're saying. We did look at that with the engineers, so I'm going to work with these guys and see if it's possible. I think that's it. I heard some discussion of earlier nights, weeknights, but I didn't hear a consensus for that.
Noise, so I think noise sensitivity between the two buildings need to be studied by the staff and set a recommendation of what would be the permissible noise limit between the buildings. But I also think that there should be when you're doing that limitation studies, maybe you can see what the average noise should be after 10 p.m., that they can't go above this decimal level after 10 p.m., which I would recommend shutting down all outdoor audio and only having interior audio after 10 p.m., which is a pretty simple thing, standard around cities.
So you're asking for a sound consultant?
Or just a base, if staff can
But
look up. what
is
the
there a
base
consensus
average-
for that, no amplified of any type outside after 10?
That's reasonable.
Yeah. So we can,
Well, that's what I'm putting out here, and then I'll put it to the commission if they want to move that forward.
okay. It sounds like,
And what other commission, let's see what else I had on there. Well, then, just to look in more, the others were recommendations, not really something I would add on to.
I think like the noise and the hours are just going to have to be, maybe it might be something that gets revisited later if it's a problem, or because, who's to say how, they're probably not going to operate live music 7 days a week until 10 every single night. So it's probably not going to be problematic. So I'd hate to, stymie their business.
And in the
until it
resolution,
gets-
there's some
yeah.
talk about the police monitoring and all of that involved. So there will be some city monitoring involved with that, but
okay. We'll amend the sound, or the one that talks about the 10 o'clock time ending live music to include no amplified.
amplified
I
exterior
like
sound.
music after the band, like there won't be turning on, just PA music or whatever.
Yeah, that's what you're worried about, is having an after party that goes with outside music. And I think if
Okay.
it contains to the inside music and if the people still were on outside, that's not a problem. It's a matter of the music going on outside.
I understand. I think it's a good idea. So we'll amend that condition, and then we'll work with the other recommendations with the applicants.
And just look into the parking opportunity. I think that would
Definitely.
be key, to have an opportunity with the parking. Those are the changes to the
Did you want to add a condition
resolution.
about the parking? Is that just for staff to work Is that a recommendation for staff to?
Yes,
Okay.
I would try to fit that in if you can.
We have to work with the engineer.
Yep.
Shading?
It's a recommendation. I don't think we can require shading, but I think for their business to be year-round, they should try to have some kind of flexible shading that would be, I mean, it looks like a great spot, great corner, incredible design, by the way. This is kind of what I'm passionate about, but I do think the shading is going to be something you're going to find out real quick, that there's nothing in that area, nothing on that corner. And this gets hot here in the summer, by the way. It gets like 100 plus, so you'd lose 4 months for that, and then in the winter, it's going to get cold enough that the fire pit's going to do something, but you could gain, if you do it right, you could gain year-round traffic all year round, which would be nice.
Chair, maybe we reread that and with, as amended, if you could just briefly
Yep.
And then we also have the amendment that Rafael brought up about the conditions that we need to eliminate, the,
Number 62, the conditions that were
you
repeated.
can just say as
Oh.
amended.
Okay. So I'm bringing back to the commission a resolution for the Planning Commission of the City of Cloverdale to approve the design review and conditional use permit to allow an addition to an existing commercial building for a restaurant and bar with outdoor amplified entertainment at 101 North Cloverdale Boulevard, APN 001-175-017, plus the additional recommendations we've just brought forward about noise, sound, and potential parking, and then also the conditional changes that we've had that the staff has addressed earlier. Do I have a motion for that resolution?
Before we go to a motion, really quick, just for the record, it's also to waive reading of the full text, so you're adopting by title only. So the
I'm sorry, what was
motion
that?
and seconder is aware that you're adopting it by the title of the resolution, so you're waiving further reading of the text. You don't have to read the entire resolution.
Oh, yeah.
I'm just
of course.
stating that for the record.
Thank you.
Oh, I'll move it. Yeah.
Thank you. Do I have a second?
Second?
With that, Commissioner Spengler,
Yes.
Commissioner Weggie,
Yes?
Vice Chair Hoverts,
Yes.
Chair AC.
Yes.
All right, the motion is carried with 4 votes and 1 absence, Commissioner Sanders. Motion passes.
Thank you. That moves us on to our next item. Thank you, everyone who attended. Our next item is new business. Any new business?
No new business.
What, I
Sure.
just hear Commissioner Sanders. Is that new business?
Yeah, I can go into that with my report. I'm
Okay.
going to talk about,
Do I have any, I guess this is out of order. I'm going to go with the departmental reports, then I'll go back to commissioner reports last.
okay.
Do you
So
have-
I can do my
Go ahead.
departmental report. So our next meeting was scheduled for January 3rd, but City Hall's closed the week leading into that, so we're going to cancel that. I may be asking you again to do a special meeting time if we have some pending stuff. We do have some, excuse me, zoning ordinance amendments that are working their way through. And then we also, with Mike's help, we're going to be overhauling the Planning Commission rules and regulations, which are 12 or 15 years old. So we need to update those. We'll be doing a reorganization, so you'll be selecting a new chair and vice chair in the first meeting of the next year. The city council did appoint 2 new commissioners and reappointed a former commissioner. Eric Sanders is back, and Corey Cadle and Craig Carney, both of which couldn't make it tonight. This is a special meeting, so I know Craig was listening in. So those guys will be.
Can you repeat what their term lengths are? So
Pardon?
you're saying there's 3 new commissioners.
Well, there's one coming back, which is Commissioner Sanders, and then there's 2 new alternate commissioners.
Oh, alternate
Springler's going to be a regular commissioner now, and Corey Cadle and Craig Carney will be the
The
alternates.
2 alternates.
Yeah.
Okay, perfect.
And I think that is it. That's it for the director's report.
Great. Any commissioner reports? Thank you. Any commissioner reports?
One more thing, our Christmas party is Friday, and everyone's welcome. It's at the Citrus Fair. Do you know what time that is, Mike? I think it's at 7. Yeah.
Perfect, thank you.
Love to see you guys.
Yeah, go ahead.
Is there anything happening up there at the Towers building? By the bar?
Oh, the Copper Towers, yeah.
Yeah, they, the inn, so the first step was the bar, Sawmill Saloon, and the second step was gonna be their inn.
Their
essentially.
housing,
Well, it's like a five, not a hotel, they want to, I think, they're calling it an inn.
Short-term rentals.
Yeah, yes, transient occupancy. 5 rooms, so the building permit got issued, I'm pretty sure, so.
Yeah.
That's probably what the most recent activity is they're finishing the construction on those 5 rooms, and then hopefully sooner than later will be the restaurant.
Yeah, I believe they're opening, or they're open for reservations right now on
They
that.
have
for the rooms?
a sign up for.
Oh, cool.
Yeah, great.
Rooms are already open for business. The restaurant, I've heard, might not be happening.
Yeah,
Started before I was here.
that would be surprising, I mean, because the Volpe's own, they're the ones that are behind it, and they have a restaurant in
Their
Petaluma.
food and-
Yeah,
food in Petaluma,
I
I
think
get
they
it.
bought it for the restaurant. That'd be surprising, that'd be disappointing.
Maybe they're just changing their plans.
Yeah, hopefully.
Okay, any other comments from the commission? Any questions? If not, I will adjourn this meeting to the next planning commission meeting that is scheduled for Tuesday, February 7th, 2023, unless there is a special meeting before that. But thank you.